Roccaporena, a small town in Italy, around 1381. This is where our story begins. The passage of Saint Francis of Assisi and his brothers was still recent, and their presence still lingered like a fragrance in all the towns near Assisi. Despite this memory, the culture of the time strongly encouraged conflict. Fights for all sorts of reasons, feuds. Supported by the laws of the time, this was something very common in daily life. It is in this troubled setting that a couple dedicates themselves to serving the Lord, right in the midst of this grave situation. Antonio and Amata were a very kind couple, and wherever they went, they tried to do good. They were known as God's peacemakers because they helped families resolve their conflicts, leading them to understand their mistakes and to forgive. That was their way of life, always trying to follow the teachings of Jesus. Amata was always deeply moved by each of the families she tried to bring peace to. They knew that only the teachings of Jesus could ease all pain. Even so, some people would comment that the couple, already of advanced age, still had no children. But not long after, to the immense joy of her parents, little Margherita was born, whom everyone would come to know as Rita. Rita's arrival filled the couple's daily life with new light. That's because now, the most beautiful flower in their garden had bloomed. It was a beautiful sunny morning, and the couple was strolling with their little daughter in their arms. A little while later, she was placed in a small basket under the shade of a large tree. A person from the countryside was nearby, picking some fruit. Imagine their surprise when they saw white bees gently surrounding the baby, as if drawn to a beautiful flower. Rita is 10 years old now. She is a sweet and loving girl to everyone around her. Always by her mother's side, her favorite moments are the prayers in the garden at home. She loved learning about the teachings of Jesus. From a young age, she learned about the importance of forgiveness and how we should do good to those who do us harm. Oh, how sweet were the walks with her dear mother. They were always filled with many stories about Jesus. Jesus is our best friend. He's the one who stands by our side in our greatest moments of pain, she thought. Even the household chores were filled with the gentle and sweet stories of Jesus. Rita is young now, and every seed planted in her during childhood is blossoming in her soul. How wonderful her moments of prayer were among the flowers in her garden. She takes care of the household chores with great dedication, trying to ease the burden on her parents, who were already elderly. While she did her chores, Rita remembered Saint Francis of Assisi and how much he loved serving the little ones. It's nighttime, and the stars frame the sky. While Rita and her mother talked about the teachings of Jesus. However, the brightest light shone within young Rita's heart. Rita loved to pray so much that her parents built a small room for her so she could immerse herself even more in her prayers. How sacred that place was to young Rita. Her parents continued their work as peacemakers. At times, Rita would accompany her parents in this work. Even as a little girl, she was already deeply moved by this suffering. In her little room, she prayed that these people would listen to Jesus, remember his teachings, and find the strength to respond to evil with good. That day, her mother hugged her, as she always did. She asked if her daughter had been playing among the flowers. Rita smiles, not understanding the question. And her mother continues. It's because you have a gentle scent of roses, my daughter. The years go by. Rita becomes even more sensitive to the pain and wounds people carried when they didn't forgive one another. Her heart overflows with the purest desire to serve Jesus, sharing his teachings wherever she went. How Rita longed for a life where she could dedicate herself entirely to the path of Jesus. Because of this desire, Rita would go to the convent to serve the nuns in simple tasks, which at the time were very laborious. She was a source of sweetness in everything she set out to do. Life seemed to smile upon Rita. She had found the meaning of her life, to serve people in the name of Jesus. However, her parents had other plans. They saw marriage as a bright opportunity for their daughter, since that was how it had been in their own lives as a couple. They told her that there was a young man from a good family at the time, and in their view, he would make Rita very happy. She was surprised. It wasn't what she expected, nor what she wanted. As always, Rita prays in the gardens of her home, seeking Jesus to understand how to respond to this moment in her life. In the end, she understands. Wherever she was, whichever path she took, it would be possible for her to devote herself to the Lord. The most important thing would be the feeling she would now put into her new way of living. Rita says goodbye to her parents with deep affection and gratitude. She sets off for her new life with her husband, Paolo Mantini. And what was once an adversity now becomes, in Rita's eyes, a new way to serve, deep and invisible. Married to Paolo, she moves to a new home, and her daily life will be very different. She no longer had her prayer room, nor the daily company of her beloved parents. Where were her beloved flowers? In a short time, Rita would come to understand that Paolo would be her new garden, full of thorns and difficult to tend, but her heart would know how to care for it. Even after getting married, Rita visited her parents whenever she could, as they were elderly and needed care. Now, with Paolo, she began to experience pain. The hidden dramas that unfolded among her family members. Through a simple conversation with the women, she was able to bring, with her kind gaze, something of Jesus' teachings. And she certainly eased many of the hardships so common in those days. Rita, very naturally during her visits to acquaintances, made herself available to serve the women of her time. Whenever there was a need, like when someone fell ill, for example. She was that caring heart who radiated goodness, reflecting in some way the light of Jesus.
Minha Nossa Senhora, me ajude a caminhar nesta estrada estreita. Vivo a tropeçar em sua companhia. chegarei ao caminho certo, o caminho de Jesus. Sei que não será fácil tirar os obstáculos, transformá-los em flores e continuar. Dai-me força e coragem para não desanimar, plantando sempre flores aonde eu passar. Sei que não será fácil tirar os obstáculos, transformá-los em flores e continuar. Dai-me força e coragem para não desanimar, plantando sempre flores aonde eu passar. Plantando sempre flores aonde eu passar.